So the government has been responding. Tonight, let's assess that. Let's assess whether that response is fit for purpose. I'm talking about their response to the Galamsey war. And a few things has happened since organized labor joined this particular war. And they've joined it, as you know, has been led by the Media Coalition Against Illegal Mining. They've been fighting this for a long, long time. But a date has now been set, the end of September. Government needs to do a few things. The president must declare a state of emergency and a host of other interventions that organized labor has demanded. That hasn't happened yet, but government has taken a decision to form an inter-ministerial ad hoc committee that is chaired by the man in your shot there, who is Kandapa, he's the National Security Minister. That same committee also has in there the Lands and Natural Resources Minister, who obviously, this is a fight that he's been waging, but as you know, the elections and the politics has become part of this whole mess. And so we've seen himself in a statement last week acknowledged that that is part of the problem. Part of the problem is actually an understatement. It is the problem. If you take the politics out of this, the politicians should be leading this fight and should be committed to it. He's not the only person on the committee. You also have the defense minister on the committee. Why? Because the approach that we've used over the years, even the NDC did the same too, is to deploy the military into the forest to try and get people out of the forest reserves and on the water bodies. So the defense minister is on the committee. We also know that you also have the employment minister. Why? Because you know that organized labor is now involved in this, and they've served a notice that by the end of September, if nothing happens, a series of things must happen. If they don't happen, they will back on the nationwide strike that will be preceded by a series of protests. And that is why you have in there the employment minister hopefully trying to engage them. And we are learning today that a meeting has already been set for tomorrow between the Inter-ministerial Committee members and organized labor and the other groups, including the Media Coalition Against Illegal Mining. The key question is, will they attend? Will they meet the ad hoc committee? An official letter has been written to organized labor, we're told. But remember that the groups embarking on this war, it's not just organized labor. There is the Inter-ministerial Committee, the doctors in there, the GMA, the nurses, the Registered Nurses Association, there's the clergy, the Catholic Bishops' Conference, the Christian Council. So wonder whether all these individual groups have all been invited to tomorrow and whether anybody will really show up. That's a big question that we'll learn a bit more about later tonight. We also know that the information minister is on there. I mean, communicating what the committee is doing is important. In fact, if you look at the terms of reference we're learning about now, one of the key things is also in these meetings, they are mandated to inform and to tell the various groups about what the government itself is doing about this. And so that's why you have the information minister as part of the ad hoc committee that will be meeting the various groups tomorrow. But a key point to note that this inter-ministerial committee have been tasked to do a few things. One is deploy river guards to patrol the rivers. We've also seen that they are deploying forest guards. Over the weekend, I've seen pictures and videos of the forest guards banning excavators again. This was a way it was fought in the past. They've started it again. Why? Because they're feeling the pressure. The Eastern Regional Minister has been speaking to us today. They've arrested a few more people. He's already talking about how the prisons are now full with illegal miners and that war has begun. But that's not just what people are asking for. You need to tackle this at the base of the problem, which is stop it now, pull back and reassess. That's what the state of emergency will do. We deploy far more resources than river guards and forest guards because the problem is way beyond river guards and forest guards. As you know, even the military struggle to deal with them. Let more forest guards and river guards. And so that is the reason behind the call for the military to be deployed into the forest areas. We have the regional ministers dealing with this at their own level. We've seen the police deployment that we've heard about, and then there's also the call for the military to be deployed too. Now, a few areas have been isolated by the government to focus on. Ashanti region, obviously, these are all the Galamsey areas. You also have the central region. We know it's an area of great importance when it comes to the ecological areas that we need to focus on. The western region has been an area of key focus, and western north too. Now, the demands are pretty simple. The government needs to meet them, right? Deployment of police and military. And the real big one is this state of emergency. Everybody else has pointed to that. Multiple groups indeed want this to happen because that will mobilize national resources to deal with this as a national emergency. Halting of the near forest and water bodies, mining in these areas, all forms of mining, legal and illegal, by the way, because you know you have an ally that allows this to happen, and they're asking for that ally itself to go and evacuate miners from these areas, and that ally must go establish special courts to deal with this. And so this also goes beyond the government and executive. The judiciary is also being asked to look at this as a national emergency. Thing is, I haven't heard the Chief Justice speak to this, whether she herself is going to take on this matter. Establishing these special courts is something that is within her purview and her prerogative to do. We'll see whether the advocacy is stretched to her already as the groups campaign. And as for small-scale mining in all forms, is one thing that the groups have said they want to happen. Government has already said that is unrealistic and would happen. And the thing to note is, what we are talking about isn't new. Governments over the past have done the same. In 2013, we have an Inter-ministerial committee. Then Inusa Husseini was the man who was leading it. They started doing the same things we're seeing right now, which is the deployment of military into the forest and banning the excavators. That didn't yield much. They tried, but it didn't yield much. A few Chinese nationals were arrested. And by the way, just last week we heard from the ambassador to China here saying to us that when our president met their president in China, Mr. Xi told us that when the Chinese misbehave in Ghana, apply your laws. And so why are we not throwing the book at them? Is a big question we need to answer. 2017, another deployment we saw under this current president. At the time where he said he's going to hang his presidency on the line, he did deployment. And we saw that the water quality improved, stability improved, ball was dropped close to the elections. We are close to an election again, ball has been dropped again. The politics is at the heart of this. 2019, we had the Galamsey Stop Task Force. I remember that. This is a year before the 2020 elections. They did their work. Controversy surrounding that quite a bit. 2020, they dropped the ball again. Now, these numbers here tell a story about why the politicians are afraid to take this on and take the bull by the horn and rid the forest of these illegal miners. The last count, according to the Kofi Annan Peacekeeping Training Center, 200,000 illegal small-scale miners were involved in this fight. Miners were affected. If you do the multiplier, you're talking about 3 million. 3 million dependents there. So there's a huge population. And if you touch them, the believers, they may vote against you. But that is really at the core, the heart of this, with just some 80 days to go before the elections. The politicians are looking at these numbers and they're playing politics with it and asking themselves, these numbers are there for us to tap into. Why do you want to move them and force them and arrest them and ban their excavators, etc., so that you can lose possibly 3 million votes? But 3 million people, even 200,000 people, compared to the rest of us, they are in significant minorities. The question that everybody is raising, some solutions needs to be found to this particular problem, and the politics must go out of the window, but the politicians can't see past these numbers. Both sides of the divide, they can't see past these numbers. And it's at the heart of the reason why nothing has happened. My guests are joining me. We'll have a conversation about this. Looking ahead to tomorrow, will they be sitting down for a conversation? But most importantly, assessing what government is attempting to do now to deal with this. Stay with me. And thank you for staying with us here on PM Express. It is one big conversation that we've been having. The government has moved and is preparing to meet with the various groups tomorrow around illegal mining, Galamsey. PMS is always brought to you by Syntex Tanks. It is strong, it is tough, and no matter your water needs, Syntex Tanks has it all. Syntex Tanks is the first to introduce a double-layer tank, and now you can have as many layers as you want. Call them. They are across the country. They have 7 years warranty. 0244-335-168 or shop online at syntexgh.com. And I also always recommend to you the Academic Times. That's Academic Times is in Ghana is an incoming graphic and online publication aiming to collaborate with university authorities and students to ensure that student research is published in some reform. You want to find them and also pay attention to the University of Ghana Alumni Lecture 2024, which is also coming up. Now, my guest joining me for a conversation tonight is Seth Champon. He's the Eastern Regional Minister. He's one of those ministers tasked by the President to move and to act. We'll ask him how he's faring in dealing with the illegal mining menace after the President gave the directive. We're joined by Bernard Owusu, who's the chairman of the Trades Union Congress. Remember, they've been invited to a meeting tomorrow. Will they attend? We'll find out. Dr. Engineer Ken Ashigbe is here with me. He's the convener of the Media Coalition Against Illegal Mining. And I wonder if he's also been invited. Just before I start, though, I mean, we've seen the circulation of the terms of reference of the ad hoc committee. And I quickly want to go through that ahead of tomorrow's meeting that has been circulated quite widely. A few things that they've been tasked to do by the President. One is to identify current state of river bodies and forest areas adversely affected by Galamsey. That's the first thing, identify those areas. Two is identify and assess the effectiveness or otherwise of prior actions taken since 2017. And we talked about the actions that the President took when he first became President, right? They want to assess the effectiveness or otherwise of those actions, engage key stakeholders, which is what they're doing tomorrow, including the academia, industry, etc. So they're engaging them, and that's what they're doing tomorrow. And then make recommendations on the way forward. So they'll engage, they will hear them out, and then make recommendations on the way forward. Now, we know that part of the brief also includes that when they meet the groups tomorrow, they have to brief them on the government effort so far, and B, take inputs from them, C, make recommendations to the government. And this is going to happen the whole of tomorrow at Alisa. All the groups will be meeting the ad hoc committee in turns, and they'll be briefing them on government efforts, taking inputs from them, and then making recommendations. Dr. Ken Ashigbe, have you been invited?
Well, I've had a conversation with somebody who works within the space about a possibility of a meeting tomorrow.
Okay. Are you attending?
Well, for us as the Media Coalition, our response to government is that our asks are very clear. So what we are asking is that they should first at least declare the state of emergency, or at the minimum, the moratorium on mining on water bodies, and the buffers of water bodies and in forest reserves. And then we can sit together and have a conversation. Okay,
so without that, you can't attend?
No. Okay. Because I think the points that we need to make have been clearly made. And not only that, you know, when it comes to the media, our people have been in the field. Yourselves, everybody. We know the things that are happening. We hear the conversations they are having. So we don't believe that at this particular point, it's about a conversation again. They know clearly, we've asked for 5 things. And then we know all the things that are happening. We're not asking for a ban on small-scale mining. We're not asking for a ban on large-scale mining. We're asking that a state of emergency be declared over the water bodies, the buffers of water bodies, and then mining in the forest reserves. We've asked that the revocation of LI 2462. We have asked that the political parties, the NDC and the MPP, we've written to them, their presidential candidates. We meet them and they publicly declare the support for these actions that we've asked the President to do. So at the minimum, what we're asking is that declare the state of emergency, or if, you know, for any reason, including the fact that when the President declares it within 72 hours, he's supposed to go to Parliament. Parliament would have to be recalled. We know Parliament House is being renovated. At the minimum, declare the moratorium, which you don't need Parliament to do. Then we can sit down and have a conversation.
Okay. I have the chairman of the TUC with me too, Bernard Owusu. Hello, Mr. Owusu. Okay, we'll get him when he joins his join issue. We'll get his thoughts on this, because I know that organized labor is supposed to be meeting tomorrow. They'll meet a couple of hours before the scheduled meeting at Alisa to take a collective decision what to do. We've heard from the Federation of Labor already, and they say they will not attend. And they warned all other members of organized labor they shouldn't dare accept to attend this invitation. The President should simply declare a state of emergency. Mr. Champon, you were, your region was one of the regions isolated in the President's action that was, announced last week in terms of the action that he expected regional ministers to do. I believe you were one of the ministers who met at that emergency meeting?
I wasn't well, so I wasn't part, but I've
Okay.
been briefed.
You've been briefed, okay.
Whatever has happened.
So what is it what's your mandate? What have you been tasked to do?
No, primarily as a representative in the region. So by law, we are leading the multi-sectoral charge to ensure that what must be done ought to be done. So what we do normally is we at the Regional Security Council, we have a task force. The task force consists of members of the military, members of the immigration service, police service, and then in our case, we have the Office of the Attorney General, a member being with that, the intelligence bodies, and then the Ghana Police Service. And we work with our local government structures. So the Municipal Security Council also works with us, and then the District Security Council also works with us. So normally, we get tip-offs, and then we will lay ambush and go and fight them. Our main fight is on the water bodies, because it is where our biggest issue is. Reasons are simple. It is the water that feeds all of us. And so if the water gets totally destroyed, there will be no food for us to eat. There will be loss of lives. So our concern is to fight them. So we go fight them. But my challenge once more is that fighting illegal miners is not as easy as I'll sit around this table to discuss. I have said it elsewhere, and people doubted me, and they said we retreated because we were outnumbered by the members who were on the scene. Yes, the theater, we were just about 30, and they were in the number of 400, and it wasn't going to be easy for us.
400 illegal miners?
Yes, members on
one spot?
On one spot, spread out. And they are armed.
400?
Yes. So we had to retreat and
And you're not exaggerating just to cover up your inability to deal with the matter.
You've been showing images of sites that have been devastated. Do they look to be just an acre of land? Widespread area. And then the alluvial operation, when they get in there, they try to just destroy everything on the earth. And once a person finds a resource here, it's as if they have gone to sound a gong to the others. Everybody comes in because that is where the meat is. And they are just driven by these things. So unfortunately, most of the people who are in the pits today are not Ghanaians. That's the sad part of it. So you would have to arrest them, and when you're processing them, you try to engage with their missions here. And sometimes they're also overwhelmed. So you are left to put them in incarceration. So pretty soon, I will not be surprised that they will say our prisons are congested.
Before the president's recent directive to yourself and the other colleagues in the region, were you fighting this on a sustained basis?
I have a standing task force that we work with. Evans, one of the challenges we have even in the Eastern region is not just the gold operations. It's sand winning. Right from the borders of the Greater Accra region here in Nsawam, all down to Suhum, go that way to West Achim, Asamankesi. It's terrible. So daily you have to have people there. That's why we were encouraged and were happy when the police deployed a 3-regional operation for us. So in the region, for instance, we have an Eastern Southern Command, which is helping us. And that is one of the things that have come as innovative to back up what we do originally in the region in respect of the fight.
What has changed since last week when we had the president's directive?
I will not be able to give all my strategies here. I will not deny that, because this is a trade where when they know you are going to come today, they will not go to the grounds to work. And they work with traditional calendar as well, because some areas, they are not supposed to go near water bodies. They also believe in certain myth and some faith beliefs. And so we are just careful. But what we're doing is we're going to ensure that whoever we find on the water body on the brim, will take you out.
Stay with me. Let me bring in Bernard Owusu, who is the chairman of the Trades Union Congress. Ms. Owusu, thanks for joining us here on PM Express. Can you confirm if you have received a formal invitation by the Inter-ministerial Ad Hoc Committee on Illegal Mining?
No, not really, not yet. We've
Okay.
just received an invitation from Minister of Labour, which we are contemplating of going for that meeting, God willing, tomorrow.
Okay. When you say you're contemplating, you haven't decided whether to attend that meeting or not?
As we speak, we haven't decided yet because we have to meet our structures tomorrow, 12 o'clock. Then from there, we can decide whether to go or not. So as we speak, we haven't decided yet.
Okay, and some of your members were clear that last week's statement didn't have room in there for a conversation. It was declare state of emergency and the 4 additional things. Conversations wasn't part of this. And so for them, you took that decision last week by the way this was crafted.
And we still stand by that decision. Our position hasn't changed. We still stand by that position. So tomorrow we will meet and a decision will be taken.
Okay, but if you look at the terms of reference of this committee, they are supposed to engage you, get your input, and make recommendations to the government on what to do about the problem. You don't find that as a legitimate reason to meet?
Well, that is why we have taken the decision that we are meeting our structures tomorrow. And once we meet our structures, a decision will be taken as to the way forward. But we still stand by our decision that the government should declare a state of emergency and revoke the article that you have to be mining at the water area and the forest. Our decisions are clear, and we are clear on our mind that what we have said, the government have to do it. And if the government don't do it, I will go ahead on the actions that we want to take, respectfully.
I mean, this committee has been set up because of the declarations you've made and together with the Media Coalition Against Illegal Mining. What is your assessment of this government intervention, which obviously has been triggered by your own action? Is it useful?
For us, whatever the government is doing today is their government responsibility that they are supposed to be doing, not for us to call on the government to do what they are doing. So what they are doing is something that they should have been doing it earlier. And once they are doing it, we say thank you, but we still insist on what we are saying because we know that if the government want to do it, they can do it and do it well. That is why we are asking that there's supposed to be a state of emergency for people to leave this Galamsey site for us to have clean water to drink. Because what is happening now, if we continue allowing this thing to happen, it means that we'll have problems in the future.
I have been one of your colleagues who's been part of this with you, Mr. Shigbe. So assess for me, when you started this renewed fight, the government and the president both responded with, this is their response to you. Form a committee again, ad hoc committee, meet, talk, and chart a way forward. Isn't that something, at least?
So, Evans, let's just take the example of a child brought to the hospital, hemorrhaging heavily. You think the doctors would ask that let's gather around in a meeting and hear you? The first thing you want to do is stop the bleed. See, the Honorable Minister mentioned the fact that, they've been doing this. You have 30 people go into a field and you meet 400. So that's what the state of emergency does. It gives the power of the military. So what you do with intelligence, so you get the recce to go ahead. Recce, find out what it is that is going. If you have to send the Air Force, you fly the Air Force in there. Gives you air cover. Because you want to arrest them. Then you send the army. If they are on the water bodies, you send the naval force to also be able to go and meet them there. Because we are in a state of war. The situation where your water levels, the turbidity in August is 14,000 NTUs. It's not something you joke about. The situation where you have heavy metals getting into our water bodies, where now, we know Ghana Water already, all of us have to pay at 1% through the PRC's charge that they gave to Ghana Water because of the turbidity and the fact that now they're not using aluminum sulfate, alum again, they are now using polymer to do sedimentation. But when they do all of that, so the water you're seeing on your TV screens, the fact that it is clear does not mean it is clean. You know, the possibility of heavy metals being in them. It's a major issue. There's situations where people are dying, falling into this pit and dying. Recently, one of my alumni, KNUST final year, went there, said he was going to help somebody in a Galamsey pit, fell into it and died. And you have all of this happening. Your 37 of your forest reserve are under attack. And you see, the minister tells us something that should be very startling. It is foreigners that are invading our forests and are dealing with them. You don't deal with these people with the same meeting again. Coming to ask us what? We have made very clear statements, the things that need to be done. And again, it's important that as a people, we realize the groundswell. You had the Catholic Bishops' Conference, the president, fly from Sonyani to Accra to come join us. We have over 50 statements that have been issued by different people. It should just tell you the enormity of the challenge that falls us. So, unfortunately, yes, these actions, if you look at what it is that we've been doing and we've been fighting, these things should have been happening on a consistent basis. How is it that the police, that if you go to, again, I'll go to the regional minister's region, you go to Enyinem, where, you know, the bridge, just behind the police headquarters, you will see Galamsey happening in there. You drive on that road for a very long time. There was a welder that was fabricating the chamfang, the platforms in that place. All of that is illegal. You know, so the methods we have used in the past have brought us stability at 14,000 NTUs in August. And so we can't use these same methods. The Bible tells us, you don't put old wine in new wineskin. And we are also told that for people who would want to do the same thing, expecting different results, there's something that is called those people. So we need to change, you know, we need to change the way we are fighting this. And we believe, based on the fact that we have been in this fight with the government, you know, for a very long time. It's not even just in this MPP's ATS. We saw it happen in the NDC era. You made mention of the fact that they were fighting it. And the reason why that fight changed was because we were getting to an election. And so the NDC at that particular point, the same songs that they are now singing in opposition, when the MPP was in opposition, sang that same song. And we saw the president in Obuasi make a statement, deny categorically that it's not true that when he came, he was coming to fight Galamsey. So when we started with him in 2017, the people were playing back this conversation to him that you said you're not good, but you're doing this. And then when we got close to the 2020 election, we saw the NDC stand in the pits and make statements that were even criminal. You know, one of their party apparatchiks make statements that were criminal that, you know, this thing you're doing, you know, they are doing the Operation Vanguard, it's still there, it's just because of the elections. And that when we come on the 7th, you go back in and go and do that illegality. Somebody prodding people on to do this illegality. And then what again do we see getting close to the next election? Now a parliamentary candidate of the ruling government standing with the minister for the regional minister for the Western region and said that they will create what platform, that the DCE would also be on it, the minister would be on it, he would be on it. If they come trying to enforce it, they should attack them. We've heard the former president also say that when he comes, he would, you know, let these people who have been arrested because normal. You see, and again, go and look at the manifesto of both parties. If it was not for these crises, both parties, their manifestos, there's no crisis response in this. So it is important that we change the method. It's the reason why we have written, the Media Coalition, we've written to His Excellency, the Vice President, we've written also to His Excellency, the former President, asking them to come, and so that they openly declare. We're not only asking the current President to do different things, we are asking that the two of them and the rest of the presidential candidates also openly declare their support for this emergency action. Because we don't want anybody
Have they received in the response yet?
Well, the letters just went. The letters just went this evening. So we don't want anybody standing in Accra and the big cities and saying, why are you fighting Galamsey, trying to talk to the middle class like that, and then go in and stand in the pits again and saying a different thing. We want them openly to say it. I was speaking to the Catholic Bishop of Honorable's diocese in Koforidua. And he says that now that's one of going to be the things he's going to say anytime he stands on the pulpit, calling out everybody. Because again, you mentioned it, the politics, that deceptive figure they see out there, of that deceptive figure, that seemed to be the thing that has worried us since 2016 elections all the way to time, and that has to end.
Yeah, I mean, Seth, let me ask you, because you used to be the chair of the Defense and Interior Committee, you're now also the chair of your Regional Security Council. Wouldn't you support a declaration of a state of emergency, considering taking 30 armed officers to meet 400 illegal miners? Wouldn't you back that?
That's why the ad hoc committee's terms of reference, as you read out, is to engage with some of the things Ken is telling us here on set. You see, in a democracy, and that is what we are running, that's what we've chosen to do as a people. I really sympathize with the anger of the voices, but sometimes some may be unknown. It is proper in this setting to sit and engage, and then we are able to make the right notes and do the necessary corrections.
Seth?
No, Evans, it is so.
I mean, the problem with illegal mining.
No, wait a minute. It is so smooth.
We've been engaging on this. Even
listen,
last year.
Let me say
Ken was
this.
that we engaged.
We
did a
it's
whole
not just last
conversation.
Year. You remember 2010?
Everybody was there.
2010, I was in Parliament.
Evans.
Yeah, forgive me. Let's hear the chairman of the TUC. Yes, Mr. Owusu.
Evans,
Mr. Owusu,
respectfully, I hear people saying that the illegal, miners or the community mining and other groups have licenses and they are operating legally. The question I always ask is that, look, if government has given license to people to own guns, and if people are using those guns and killing people in town, would government now go and engage those who are using the guns to kill, to sort of engage them and talk to them from killing? Where we have gotten to, the level that we have gotten to as we speak today, the state of emergency have to be declared, and the soldiers have to move in to clear the way. We've tried all manner of things, and it's not working. And that has been the position of the TUC. That, look, let's do this and let's stop it once and for all. Then all of us will be free. Respectfully.
Seth.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So, like I told you, when the chairman of the TUC is emotional like this, I agree with him. But from where I sit, and as a leader, jobs matter. People must survive. So some of the times, you can't just shut the economy down. You have a lot to do. That's why we are asking that, let's sit around the table and weigh all the options. For me, that's the beauty of democracy.
I mean,
I say this. When I took office,
right?
Let me say.
Just when I took office, question,
right?
Because it is illegal. It's just like armed robbery.
It's not just about illegality.
But
see, from the picture that we've been painting now,
right? Even those who have licenses and operating
all
on water bodies are operating
miners
legally.
are illegal. No. There are some small-scale miners who are responsible. My first 2 years in office, we banned this 2021, 2022. And we stopped all mining activities, inclusive large-scale miners. And I had to go around all my mining areas. My region is one of the heavy mining areas in this country, and engage all stakeholders, i.e. traditional authority, miners themselves, both small scale, large scale, quarry, every form of mining. And then we started getting the pressure. Remember, we had to burn people's machines.
Yeah.
And we all know and appreciate the outcome. We run an economy. And one of the major contributions to this economy is our extractive industry. And so we cannot just shut it out and sit and say, yes, we can live. That is why I say I sympathize with people who are angry. But on the other side, I'm happy Ken spoke about how we've allowed this fight to become a political thing. Unfortunately, when people are aggressively battling this, others are nicodemously telling others that get on. And that is the danger.
Have you had that in your region?
My region is no exception. So we would have to continuously speak. That's why when I got the invitation, I said, no, let me come. Because if we do not tell the story, who will tell it for us?
What story do you want to tell?
No, James, what I'm telling you, some small-scale miners, and at the time when we started rolling new programs, we got them to go by responsible mining practices. And we revoke your license if you go beyond the stipulated buffer, 1 on water bodies and buffer 2 our forest reserves. Like Ken said, our forest cover has suffered. Our water bodies is still suffering. I told you, you asked me a while ago, why are we not giving you my plan, for instance, what I'm going to do tomorrow? They are watching me. If I send my DC to go and do it, I will not tell you I'm sending my DC.
I want to understand the partisan politics. Because you are an implementer of the government measures to try and stop this, how has it made you work difficult in trying to root out illegal mining in your constituency, in your region?
Because when we try to fight them, they tell us that we are inimical to their survival. Reasons are simple. They put us in office. When we come in office, we destroy their businesses. And these are livelihoods. And so they are the ones who decide where you sit tomorrow. In 2020, we were tough. We still had our operations running. We lost over 25 seats in mining areas as a political party. Let me be a realist here. If you go back to do the analysis, would you sit back and say, I should allow my people to lose? How best do I help manage the local economies for the people? That's how come we had to put people in community mining and responsible small-scale mining, so that they can also get some work to do. Because if you don't face that conversation, you are lost out. I'm happy for the voices today for one reason. The reason is that everybody must speak to the truth. It shouldn't be only one person speaking to the truth. And I'm happy that history tells us that those who found it convenient and expedient to go and mount cameras by water bodies and demonstrate, little did they know. I tell you, 2010, I was in Parliament. You know when we started struggling with this menace, when it started, illegal mining Galamsey have been with us. It predates me before I was born. No, it predates me.
Yeah, it wasn't such a big deal. There,
exactly.
Hoes and cutlasses.
Just within the space of about 2-3 years.
We started deploying shamfans and excavators.
10,000, it was in 2013 when we deported 4,000 Chinese. 10,000 Chinese came into our body. That was when the Ancobras and all our water bodies started struggling. Ghanaians didn't know about mining in our water bodies. We didn't know about going into our forest reserve.
But you accept, though, even if you lost 25 seats, it's still not an excuse to sit back and watch this happen to the environment.
We're not sitting back and watch. We are fighting. I say this so simple. Crime. We've never had a foolproof security state. It never happens. As you are thinking positive and working at a subject, others are also looking at how to undo the positives you're trying to do. And so as we engaged the miners who we knew were the real miners, and those some of them who were also involved in illegal activities, we called them to the table. Go, come with your people. We'll give you a paper. We'll come and follow what you're doing. We don't want you to go onto the water because we will destroy and kill you when the soldiers come. Remember when what the soldiers did? The naval officers. At the time, we had a CDS who was a naval commander, was a Navy officer, Setam Amwama. He led. and we had clean water in the country. Similarly, because lives matter, the voices started again that we are destroying lawful, legitimate business. And government can be a destroyer of people's business.
Let me ask the TUC how they're approaching. Because I've heard Ken talk about they've written to the parties, both sides, to make a declaration. The TUC's, what's the TUC's approach to this? Because the minister just told us that the problem is really the partisanship. They've lost 25 seats. They don't want to lose 25 seats. Actually, they want to regain. And so he won't say it, but it is a reason why the fight has been lackluster. How is the TUC approaching that in this period where you have 80 plus days to an election, so that you are approaching this fairly and getting both sides to the table to make commitments beyond the president? Hello, Bernard. Okay, I may have lost him there. But Ken, that's the politician having an excuse, listening to, they lost 25 seats.
Well, again, so for us as the coalition, it is you see, again, that's why when we say we don't really need a meeting, we understand it. Go back, we have documented it. That's why I've shown you. If you look at, you just plot how the turbidity gets worse and compare it. You see, again, it's not me saying it. The Speaker of Parliament sat in Parliament and indicted members of Parliament. Both parties have Galamsey funds getting into there. So not only are they looking at the issue of the votes, this is funding, you know, our politics. And that's quote the Speaker of Parliament. You know, and so it is a real thing. It is the reason why for us it is important that we get, and again, you know, not being a realist, you know, we know that about what, how many people, presidential candidates, but the rest can join. But we need His Excellency the Vice President to state categorically the support, the fight that we are asking the president to do. And say it openly so that we will get all of you media houses to record it and play it every morning. We need the former president, who is also the candidate for the NDC, stating it categorically. I have seen that the running mate of the MPP have thrown the gauntlet out to the NDC as well. I am hoping they will all embrace it. I am not a supporter of Israel when it comes to the way they are fighting Hamas. But you see the way they have all come together to be able to prosecute this fight. So it's true, we have 80-something days to an elections, but our very survival is at risk. And again, look, you see, nature is such that it punishes us for our actions. You think it's for nothing that we are having drought at this time, that the rains are not coming? It is because of our irresponsibility. It's because of the forest cover that we've lost. And so when you have irresponsibility meet a drought, if you are not careful, that water that is sitting in the transpiration will take it out, and you will not even get the heavily polluted water to drink. So in a crisis, it is important that we get all the political parties coming together and saying that let's fight this head on. And they are supporting the current commander-in-chief to be able to fight it. So come 8th of January, 2025, whoever wins the elections, we then can sit together and then plan and say, how do we then do the golden age of mining within an environment that is very responsible, where at least, you know, we are able to get the water, you know, to recover. But when you have a situation where in Elembele, for example, and you see Sender, I don't know whether I'm mentioning it properly, there is a company called SDSD. It's a company that has been mining close to a river body that in March this year was just clear, almost looking black. Now currently looking very, and you know what has happened? The EPA has issued a stop order for this mining, this company to stop mining. They are, you know, flouting that. So my invitation to my brother Seth is that things like this, if we say we are in a crisis...
in this region?
No, it's not in this region, but I can speak to the regional, the Western Regional Minister, and I'll give him the details of all of that. The letter, I'll give him the letter that, and I'll give you a copy too. A letter that, how do you call it? EPA wrote. And EPA, we should indict them. When you have somebody mining close to the water bodies, It is a crime. It is a sin against the Minerals and Mining Act. You don't just issue a desist. You ask the police to go and arrest them. You know, so that is the reason why we say we cannot continue the usual, where people are writing letters, when people are committing crimes. You see, because now, and again, so when we talk about the issues of jobs, and then we talk about, yes, and again, I think you should go read the two, at least the major two ones, the labor, and then also from there is nowhere where we're calling on responsible small-scale mining that go after them. Because again, Akunta Mine, they are not a small-scale miner now. But they're involved in an illegality. That, you know, the minister called them, and nothing has been done. Heritage Imperial, another large-scale miner, involved in, they were using their prospecting license to mine. An illegal act. They even went to parliament to say they are mining operations. There's none of the forest reserves where you have a small-scale mining firm involved in. So I would not sit here, based on the experiences I've had asset share, where we ban small-scale mining to say today, let's ban small-scale mining, that it's only predominantly Ghanaians who do. We need to make sure that it is not a ban. On the water bodies, it's illegal. On the side of the water bodies, it's illegal. The only place we are asking for revocation is in the forest reserve. And those places, it's also not small-scale miners. Let's make sure we're dealing with them.
Yeah. And you mentioned something, Setish, I need to ask him. You mentioned that in this region, there's a police station where behind the station.
Yes, and you know.
What has happened? You
No,
know about this?
we have stopped them now.
So they're not.
It was something that was really bothering us because we were concerned. The police station is just close to the Brim River. And then you travel at all times and you find people using chamfine on the water body. And you ask yourself, what's happening? That's why I said we don't disclose what we do. So we don't rely locally. We don't rely solely on local police within the communities. That's why we set up a task force.
How did you get rid of them?
No, we had to go and fight them by our own ways. Sometimes I get the military to come and support us with police on ground. We have BNI on ground, NIB on ground.
So they have stopped now?
Oh, yes. Now,
in that area, you see, behind the police station.
Wait a minute. The sad thing is that you get to Enyinem and you see the water being red. It is not in Enyinem. It's coming from a different location because they have disturbed the water there.
Of course, upstream is going to flow all the way
like
down.
what Ken was saying, yes, sometimes those were the things we were seeing.
I mean, behind this police station, there's no single illegal miner there now.
No, now there's none.
If we send a reporter there tomorrow,
please do try.
You
try
meet
for
an
me.
area.
Try for me.
Left untouched.
Try for me.
Of course, after that, are you reclaiming that area now? Because of course, that devastation.
That is a whole conversation.
But it's a conversation we must have.
Reclamation is quite expensive. Ken is here will tell you as an engineer. It's not just as we just use our mouth to say. So normally when we're giving concessions out.
On your screens now, I believe this is a police station, behind the police station area there. Did you lead the team there yourself?
This is not. This looks like Osino. This is not.
Osino, okay.
Yes. This is not Enyinem.
Were you personally involved?
Oh yes. Why would you stay away? There are actions you have to lead your men to give them. It's a command service, and you being the representative of the commander-in-chief, if they don't find you amongst them on some of the road actions, you go one or two with them. Strategically, it's very important, but you can't do it all by yourself. Sometimes they will tell you these ones.
Yeah, I was making the point about reclamation. Are you reclaiming that piece?
We can't reclaim all easily because it's also capital intensive. It requires a lot of earth to be moved, a lot of borrowed material to come around. And Evans, this fight is no cheap fight. I'm happy I'm sitting with an engineer. Sometimes when we talk about it, people just get up and just run their mouths and walk away. The devastation, redoing what we have destroyed, is going to cost us times 10. I'll not deny it. And so we are looking at ways and means. That's the reason why I believe in some of the conversations we need to sit around the table and discuss. Because the cost on the state is more than we see and discuss. We have to put up a whole documentation to go and source for support to come and reclaim some of our devastated lands.
We
Total shame.
We destroy our forests, and we now possibly have to go and beg some foreign entity to come and help us.
So the engineer in me just comes out, and the finance person in me just comes out. What is the total cost of this? You're going to spend more than. I remember Honorable from Property gave us the numbers, and these are people who don't pay taxes. These are people. Go to the town of Osino. Osino is destroyed. There is a mate of mine that I saw in one of the Wasa areas. I'm sure he's slightly younger than I am. But you see the way how he's become, and all he's gotten is some 3-bedroom house out of this illegality. So you see, we also are not telling, and I think that's one of the charges as media we need to do. We are not telling the people in these communities, some of you think that Galamsey is their savior. That is some mentality. We are not actually letting them see what the linkages are. Simply, coconut. If you just take coconut. Coconut in 3-4 years will start fruiting and give you $25,000 a year. Galamsey for an acre. Galamsey, if you put any person on a Galamsey pit, 1 acre, they will get $6,000 for that, and then it's dead. They won't even reclaim it and all of that. That's why the reason why they make 6,000 acres. So if you are a chief and you decide that your people, or if the government decide that 3 years, 4 years, that you are going to wait for the coconut to fruit, we will pay you some money. You are going to make in 30 years that the life of the coconut trees will live. That's $75,000. That's not only your generation, but who is sitting down and doing this math with our people? Yeah. Who is also sitting down and telling these people that when your children are deformed, it's gone. And now you, the men. Very soon, you'll be sterile. You'll not be able to make children. You'll not even be able to have sex because of what is happening. The women are suffering that now with the stillbirth babies and all. So we need to also let the people know. So what you touch a man of in your number and also in your Galamsey into it's not there yet. So that conversation we need to have. But we need to stop it before we start the meetings.
And Seth, so
as I watch your devices here, I just saw one of the statements made by my colleagues, my friends opposite. Don't blame Mahama for Galamsey. Ekufuado is solely responsible. And this is coming from my brother. I did student politics with Haruna Idrisum. I respect him so much. And we are good friends. But if this happens and we see statements like this, it demoralizes the people. Because why are we trying to make politics out of this? If I try to go by that, I'll tell you, your own station, multimedia, I'll show you your reports. That is why I know. That's why I don't like doing this business. In 2010, Galamsey worsened in 2010, and water pollution increased. My Joy Online. This is 2010, and so today, who was in power in 2010? And we couldn't fight it. 14 years down the line, we're still doing this kind of conversation? Is that where we need to go? I want to be serious. That's why I said that we need to sit around the table. And I'm happy with the position of the coalition.
Organized Labour is going to meet tomorrow.
No, Organized Labour, I'm appealing to them. It is very,
but Ken has also told you that if you don't declare the state of emergency...
No, Ken is going to come.
Oh, yeah.
But no, this is...
He's told you.
Listen, I know how to get Ken to come.
They'll get the moratorium.
The most important thing is that, Ken, we have to to progress in this country. You see, it is not a playbook.
No.
We have to ensure that we build this country well and for ourselves. I have nowhere to go.
But you have to show good faith first. Take some action.
Yes.
Take some action, and then you can inspire them to come.
Oh, my goodness. Evans, of all that we're doing, we're not taking action. My boss, you see, and I'm happy for what the president did. Ghana honored him by making him a president. And he put that honor as an inspiration to energize all of us. I'm happy for the voices today. If we had these voices, immediately he took that decision. We had the voice.
In fact, media coalition against illegal mining.
Yes.
It's the reason why the president ruled on the back of that to declare that he's going to put it in the line.
We banned it. We fought
But no president in our history has had that support to deal with illegal mining. He had everything at his disposal. He had the goodwill.
He just did what he had to do. Yet, human beings, as difficult as we are still on the table having this conversation.
So you're pleading with them to show up?
It's important.
Well, they told you
democracy
what's going to happen. Anyway, Seth,
if they don't come, we'll still do what we have to do.
Okay. That's Seth Champon. He's the Eastern Region Minister. Kenna Shigbe, obviously, is the convener of the Media Coalition Against Illegal Mining. He had the chairman, Bernardo, who's the chairman of the trade union. Enjoy the rest of the evening.